December 17, 1967, a bright summer morning at Cheviot Beach, Victoria. Australia's 17th Prime Minister Harold Holt walks into the surf and vanishes without a trace. What happened next would spawn countless theories, lead to one of the largest search operations in Australian history, and leave us with a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. But here's the thing, what if the most crucial clue wasn't in the water at all? Stay tuned, because fact number 1 reveals something about the days before his disappearance that changes everything. Fact 10. The morning. Let's dive right into that fateful morning. Harold Holt wasn't just any swimmer, this was a man who knew these waters like the back of his hand. A strong swimmer and experienced spearfisher, Holt practically considered Cheviot Beach his second home. He'd been swimming there for decades, often combining his love of the ocean with his political life by holding meetings at his beach house in Portsea. The conditions that morning were absolutely wild. We're talking about waves reaching up to 15 feet high, strong undertows, and currents so powerful they could sweep away even the most experienced swimmers. The wind was gusting at over 40 kilometers per hour, creating what locals called a bombora condition, when waves hit hidden reefs and create unexpected surges. Even more fascinating, multiple people had warned Holt about swimming that day. The previous evening, his neighbor had mentioned the dangerous forecast, but Holt just laughed it off. That morning, several surfers were packing up their gear as Holt arrived, saying the conditions were too treacherous. But Holt, ever confident, told his companions, "I know this beach like no other." He'd even boasted about swimming in rougher conditions.
Fact 9. The witnesses.
Here's where things get really interesting. 4 people accompanied Holt to the beach that morning, and their accounts paint a vivid picture of those final moments. There was his neighbor Alan Stewart, a close friend who'd often joined him for morning swims. Stewart's daughter Marjorie Gillespie was there too. She'd known Holt for years and considered him almost family. Then there was her friend Jan Lee, visiting from Canberra, and Martin Simpson, a local filmmaker who'd been documenting some of Holt's beach visits. The group arrived around 11:15 am, with Holt in high spirits, joking about the rough conditions. He changed into his swimming trunks behind a beach towel, a small detail that somehow makes the whole scene more human. Walking towards the water, he turned back and gave a characteristic wave, something he'd done countless times before. What happened next is where the accounts start to differ, and fascinatingly so. Marjorie Gillespie reported seeing him dive under a wave about 45 meters from shore, while Alan Stewart remembered him swimming parallel to the beach before being caught in what looked like a rip current. Jan Lee recalled him being much closer to shore when he disappeared, while Martin Simpson was adjusting his camera and only looked up when the others started calling out. The timing of the alarm being raised is equally intriguing. Marjorie Gillespie insists they waited only 3-4 minutes before raising the alarm, but police reports suggest it might have been closer to 20 minutes.
Fact 8. The search operation.
The response to Holt's disappearance was absolutely unprecedented. Within hours, it became the largest search operation in Australian history. We're talking about 50 professional divers, 5 helicopters, 7 Navy ships, 8 civilian aircraft, and even us military personnel who were in the area joined in. The scale of this operation was mind-blowing. The Royal Australian Navy deployed their most advanced sonar equipment, capable of detecting objects as small as a shoe on the ocean floor. Air Force planes equipped with specialized cameras photographed every square meter of the search area. Local fishing boats formed search chains, methodically combing through the waters. But here's the really fascinating part: the search area kept expanding. As oceanographers calculated potential drift patterns, the search zone grew to cover more than 50 square kilometers. Teams were even searching caves along the coastline, some extending hundreds of meters inland. The operation continued for an incredible 22 days, making it the longest search for a missing person in Australian history at that time. Yet despite all this effort, using the most advanced technology available in 1967, not a single trace of Harold Holt was ever found.
Fact 7. The official response.
Get this, Holt's disappearance created such chaos that Australia literally had to make up new rules on the spot. There was no established protocol for what to do when a sitting Prime Minister vanishes. The government found itself in completely uncharted waters, pun absolutely intended. The initial response was fascinating. While the search was still ongoing, the Governor-General, Lord Casey, had to make an unprecedented decision. Without a body or absolute proof of death, he had to determine when to officially declare the Prime Minister deceased. The legal implications were enormous. The cabinet met in emergency session just hours after the disappearance, with acting Prime Minister John McEwen being sworn in by 7 p.m. that same day. This swift action was crucial for maintaining government stability, but it also meant accepting the harsh reality that Holt was unlikely to be found alive. What's really interesting is how this crisis exposed major gaps in Australia's constitutional framework.
Fact 6. The local knowledge.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. The indigenous Bunurong people had been warning about the dangers of Cheviot Beach for generations. They called it Wongwong, meaning the place of evil spirits, and their oral histories were filled with tales of strong warriors being taken by the waters. The geological features of the area make it particularly treacherous. Underwater caves and tunnels created by centuries of wave action form a complex network beneath the surface. Some of these caves extend hundreds of meters inland, and diving expeditions in the 1980s discovered that many form powerful suction effects during certain tidal conditions. Local fishermen had their own names for different parts of the beach, warning newcomers about the cauldron and the drain areas where multiple rip currents converged. Even today, professional divers consider Cheviot Beach one of the most dangerous diving locations in Victoria.
Fact 5. The Harold Holt Swimming Centre.
In what has to be one of history's greatest examples of irony, Melbourne named a swimming pool after him. Yes, you heard that right, the Harold Holt Swim Centre in Glen Iris, Melbourne stands as perhaps the most bizarrely appropriate memorial ever created. Opened in 1969, just 2 years after his disappearance, the centre actually embodies a beautiful piece of Australian cultural character. Instead of shying away from the irony, they embraced it. The centre's original proposal faced some opposition, but supporters argued it would honour Holt's love of swimming while promoting water safety.
Fact 4. The constitutional crisis.
Holt's disappearance exposed massive gaps in Australia's constitution. The situation was unprecedented. How do you legally declare someone dead without a body? How long should you wait? What happens to their parliamentary seat? These questions had never been answered before. The crisis led to major reforms in Australian constitutional law. New procedures were established for temporary transfer of power, clear timelines were set for declaring officials deceased in absentia, and succession protocols were completely overhauled.
Fact 3. The modern impact.
The phrase, doing a Harold Holt, has become part of Australian slang, meaning to disappear unexpectedly. It's a testament to how deeply this event is embedded in Australian cultural memory, but the impact goes way beyond slang. Holt's disappearance fundamentally changed Australia's relationship with the ocean. Beach safety protocols were completely overhauled, with new warning systems, improved lifeguard training, and mandatory risk assessments for public beaches. The case also revolutionized Australia's emergency response procedures. The lessons learned during the massive search operation led to the development of new search and rescue protocols that are still in use today.
Fact 2. The cultural legacy.
The disappearance changed Australia's relationship with the ocean forever. Following Holt's vanishing, beach safety became a national priority. New protocols were established, warning systems improved, and public education about ocean safety received unprecedented attention. The event has inspired countless books, documentaries, and even plays.
Fact 1. The final days.
And now, the revelation I promised at the start. In the days leading up to his disappearance, Holt had been acting strangely. He'd been working incredibly long hours, sometimes up to 16 hours a day, and his staff had noticed significant changes in his behavior. His doctor had actually warned him about exhaustion just weeks before. Holt was dealing with incredible pressure, major political challenges, personal stress, and health issues that he'd been trying to keep private. In cabinet meetings, colleagues noticed he seemed distracted, sometimes losing track of discussions. He'd been making unusual decisions, changing long-held positions, and showing signs of what we might now recognize as extreme stress. Even more intriguing, he'd started putting his affairs in order, organizing his papers, and writing unusually reflective letters to friends. Was this just a coincidence? Was he planning some kind of change in his life? Or was he simply feeling the weight of his responsibilities? His final week was particularly intense. He'd attended multiple high-pressure meetings, dealt with several political crises, and had barely slept. Was his judgment impaired that morning? Did exhaustion cloud his usually sharp assessment of ocean conditions? We'll never know for sure, but these final days add a crucial layer to understanding this enduring mystery. The disappearance of Harold Holt remains one of Australia's most fascinating unsolved mysteries. A Prime Minister who walked into the surf and vanished without a trace, leaving behind questions that still spark debate today. From constitutional crises to swimming pool memorials, from massive search operations to enduring cultural impact, this case has it all. Whatever happened on that summer morning in 1967, one thing's for certain: Harold Holt's story continues to captivate audiences worldwide, proving that sometimes the most intriguing mysteries are the ones that remain unsolved. What do you think happened to Harold Holt? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay updated on more fascinating historical mysteries. Until next time.